comparing objects is how we can tell if we have two objects with the same reference or two objects that merely look alike. There are two operators we can use to compare objects. There's the normal comparison operator, which is just equals equals, or there's the stricter identity operator, the equals equals equals. Now don't worry if you don't remember the name identity operator. What's important is that it's a stricter form of comparison. So in the first case, it's going to compare whether two objects have the same attributes, whether or not they're basically the same. But the stricter identity operator is going to require that the two objects being compared actually point to the same reference object. I'm going to go to TextMate. I'll open up a new window. And let's just save this as comparison.php. And we'll go ahead and start with our PHP tags. Now, let's imagine that we have a real simple object. I'm just going to call it box. And I'll just give it a simple attribute called name. So let's make a reference to the box first of all. So that's just a real simple reference assignment. And we know that that always takes place with objects. And then, now that we know how to do a clone, let's also do a cloned version of it, just so that we can see that. And then, just so that we can compare that to something else, let's now make another one called box changed. Okay, so let's be clear that this is something different. We're cloning it again, but this time we're just going to change one of its attributes. And then last of all, let's just make another box, which is a completely separate instantiation of new box. So now that we have these different instances to work with, now let's just try writing ourselves some simple tests. Now I'm going to paste in the tests that I've already written just to save me time from typing. You can pause the movie if you want to copy them down to work along with me. What I'm simply going to do on each one is echo back true or false depending on the results of the equals operator, equal, equal. So I'm going to compare box with box reference, box with clone, box with changed, and box with the another box. And that will then give me a comparison to say, which cases is this true? When are they the same? And we'll be able to see the difference. Let's bring that up and try it. I'll go to Firefox and let's bring up comparison.php. So I got true, true, false, and true. So let's just come back here and make ourselves some notes. This is true. This one was also true. This one was false. And this one was true. So let's look at what happened there. The reference is still equal. They point to the same thing, their values are the same. The clone, also equal. Even though they don't point to the same object, the attributes are the same. They start out with the name just being box. So there's no difference. It says, yeah, they're the same. Box changed is the one that's false. And the reason why is because the attribute name got changed. It's now changed box. So it returns false. And even when we compare box with another box, a completely new instance, which is basically the same thing as when we did the cloned version, it comes back true because the attributes are essentially the same. It's pretty much the same thing. Now let's try those same tests again. But this time, we're going to do it with the stricter identity operator. So equals equals equals. You can actually just copy and paste that top text again, and then just go in and change each of those to be equals equals equals. And let's try that and see what that does. We'll come back. Reload. I put an extra BR tag in here so I could separate them. Notice only the first one is true. The rest are false. So I'm just going to make my notes here. That's true. And the rest of them are false. Only one that passed the test was the reference. They point to the exact same thing. When we cloned it, nope, not the same. Different thing. When we changed it, of course it's not the same. It didn't even pass the other test. And when we created a new object, a new instantiation, said, nope, those are two different things. They point to different places. So I hope those comparison operators are clear. Just to summarize, when we're comparing objects, two references will always pass both tests, equal, equal, and the triple equal, the identity operator. Instances with matching attributes will pass the equals equals test. It'll say, yeah, the attributes are the same. They seem pretty much alike. Doesn't matter if they point to the same data or not. But they will fail the identity test because they don't refer to the same object. And then, of course, instances with different attributes will always fail both. It'll say, oh, that's completely different. That's John Smith, not Jane Doe. I can tell, they're not the same right away. And so it'll fail both tests. So now that we understand how to compare objects, and we understand references, we understand cloning, we understand constructors, we really have a good understanding of how object-oriented programming works in PHP. We're ready to actually put it into practice and to start a project that will help us to bring all of this knowledge together. And that's what we'll start with in the next chapter.